Hi there. You maintain money in a capitalist society by owning things. You maintain capital, and that capital becomes more and more powerful as it is more and more vast. So, for example, if I own a finite amount of product and I sell you that finite amount of product, I earn a finite amount of currency. However, if I own a infinite product, for example, a digital product like Apple or what's an example, Microsoft Office, any one of the Adobe suite, then I can sell that product infinitely over and over and over again based off of a subscription basis because I own an infinite number of them and can sell it on a. I don't have to give you the product, I can just lend you the product. Same thing with rent. That's why rent is such a productive and economically efficient model. So the issue is when you are at the bottom here and you have to subscribe to all these services, you effectively have a renter class, the renter class being not only the physical renters of house and home, but also the digital renters of products and services. Then everybody up here just rains down products on here, which boosts them up. It's similar to gravity, almost Newton's law of motion, where every action is an equal and opposite reaction. The product dropping from here produces upward economic motion, whereas the people down here are forced to stay down here because they've hit a floor. Now, unfortunately, this actually no longer applies because there is no floor. You have a debt floor. You can keep going into debt perpetually, and until you get to an absurd amount of debt, you're sort of stuck. So what people do is they fight back by earning amount of currency through minimum wage jobs or whatnot. Unfortunately, as we've seen during COVID-19, it costs. Minimum wage jobs are effectively economically inviolable. So are many other entry-level jobs, because if you can be paid under $1,000, then it's worth having a job to supplement your COVID income. But if you get paid slightly more than that, it's actually less economically viable to work than it is to not work. So unless somebody's earning more than they would through the government, it becomes wage exploitation as opposed to just payment. And that's the worry nowadays. That's my worry. I just graduated / am graduating from my neuroscience degree, as the few of you watching this already know, and I fear that I'm stuck because even though I have a decent amount of experience, and the few of you who do know me understand that I've developed a wide variety of theories that are cross-disciplinary, so even though I can produce a certain amount of value, the issue is allowing that value to propagate. And until I can find an outlet to, produce ideas or to examine the world through different lenses, then I'm stuck, just like so many other people are stuck. It's difficult to pull yourself up by your bootstraps when the term pull yourself up by your bootstraps is an impossibility. You can't pull yourself up by your bootstraps and stand up. That just trips you. So one option is to sit here and complain, as apparently I'm doing now, and the other option is to get my master's, but then I'm stuck in a more and more specific version of the field as opposed to generalizing into there's certain fundamental principles that operate for every single version of every field, if you will. The example that I gave you with economics, that is a gravitational analysis. It works the same way as theoretical physics does, as attractive and repulsion forces do in theoretical physics. There's a lot of crossplay between fields that people don't examine, and it's because there's a universal set of principles that every field contains. For example, attraction versus repulsion in psychology. What's it called? Attachment avoidance theory. And then neuronal impulse, for example, goes like, if I draw it correctly to your side, it should go like this. Meet threshold excitation, hit peak, and then drop down below, and then depolarize, hyperpolarize, and then return to baseline. It's the same thing. We're all neurons, right? We're all just made of neurons. All of our moods and everything are just a larger propagation of neurons. If one neuron fires like that, then a mood should also fire like that. And we find out it does. You start angry, and then you fall back to a bargaining fear stage, and then you switch to a depressive state, and then you go back to center, and either something's changed or nothing's changed, and you've now maintained baseline. And you may have varied the levels to which the beginning and end have occurred. Usually you have, but sometimes it just sort of gets stuck in a repetitive cycle, which would be effectively a defunctioning neuron, one that gets stuck in an infinite cycle and doesn't actually propagate any new information. So the question is, how can a neuron communicate when all other neurons are firing at max cylinders? If everybody is talking all the time, then how does one person get their thoughts out? There's so much information in the world, and to my understanding, attentional spans have decreased very drastically. I'm impressed that you have watched this video for this long. But the question is, what do we do now? What do I do now?